Hello, and welcome to Modern Explorer. Today we have a special video. I'd like you to check out my friend and fellow YouTuber, Hammerson Peters from Canada. The following story is from his book, Legends of the Nahanni Valley. So if you like this video, check out his channel where you get to hear all kinds of excerpts from the great research Hammerson has compiled into 3 books so far that are absolutely incredible reads with vast amounts of historical testimony about the strange encounters he has dug up from old records and journals. Don't forget to check out his website at hammersonpeters.com to find books and all kinds of other news and offers that Hammerson has to offer. I hope you all like it and are as excited about the glacier demon as I am. Is it the ramblings of deranged, desperate men, or did they run into something truly frightening and real? Listen to Ruthie Poole as she narrates the story.
The Glacial Demon. Based on 2 separate incidents reported in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the author of this book has decided to include another Alaskan monster in this list of northern wildmen, which one U.S. Army officer styled the Glacial Demon. The first incident took place in 1898 during the Klondike Gold Rush. At that time, rumor had it that an old Russian trail led from the shores of Prince William Sound, an Alaskan inlet situated in the shadow of the vast Valdez Glacier, located about 115 miles due east of Anchorage, Alaska, to the Yukon goldfields, circumventing Canadian customs. Eager to avoid paying duty on their outfits at the Canadian border, about 3,500 American stampeders disembarked at this remote part of Alaska and set out in search of the trailhead. As it turned out, there was no secret Russian route to the interior. The only way through the coast mountain in this part of Alaska was over the Valdez Glacier. Prospectors who chose this route had to haul their supplies over 300 yards of sand and 6 miles of snow to reach the base of the glacier. After that, they had to ascend the icy monolith, hoisting their sleds up with pulleys. Upon reaching the windy, frozen summit of the Valdez Glacier, stampeders ventured out onto the ice field one by one. With steel crampons strapped to their feet, they slowly inched their way northwest, picking their way through a minefield of deadly crevices. It would be several weeks before any of them reached the other side, where an even more dangerous obstacle, the Klutina River, awaited them. Some of the gold seekers who hazarded this so-called all-American route to the Klondike were buried in avalanches. Their bones still lie trapped beneath the snow. Other unfortunates plunged through the ice and plummeted to their doom, disappearing down bottomless, black crevices. Those who avoided these fates faced a myriad of physical and mental tribulations on their journey over the glacial plain, enduring extreme exposure, severe sleep deprivation, and countless hours immersed in an unhealthy white fog. They did most of their traveling at night when the ice was solid enough to bear their weight. In the day, the sun reflected off the snow and ice, causing many prospectors to go snowblind. Due to the harsh conditions, stampeders, as participants in the Klondike Gold Rush were sometimes called, were unable to thoroughly cook their food, and many survived their journey over the glacier by subsisting on half-frozen, half-cooked meals. Many who failed to turn back, too stubborn to abandon their folly, slowly descended into insanity. In the spring of 1899, a man named W.R. Abercrombie, a captain in the Army's 2nd Infantry Regiment, was dispatched to the Valdez area and ordered to report his findings to the War Department. That April, the officer reached Port Valdez, a town that has since sprang up on the shores of Prince William Sound, the site of present-day Valdez, Alaska. There he encountered a ragged bunch of stampeders. Suffering from snow blindness, scurvy, and frostbite, these prospectors had just returned from the ice field. After interviewing them, Abercrombie made the following entry into his report. I noticed in talking to these people that over 70% of them were more or less deranged. My attention was first directed to this fact by their reference to a glacial demon. One big raw-boned Swede in particular described to me how this demon had strangled his son on the glacier. His story being that he had just started from 12 Mile Point, which is a collection of huts just across the coast range of mountains from Valdez. He and his son had to go to the coast in company with some other prospectors. Halfway up the summit of the glacier, his son, who was ahead of him hauling a sled while he was behind pushing, called to him, saying that the demon had attacked him and had his arms around his neck. The father ran to the son's assistance, but as he described it, his son was being very strong, soon drove the demon away, and they passed on their way up to the summit of Valdez Glacier. The weather was very cold, and the wind was blowing very hard, so that it made traveling very difficult in passing over the ice between the huge crevices through which it was necessary to pick their way to gain the summit. While in the thickest of these crevices, the demon again appeared. He was said to be small, heavily built man and very active. He again sprang on the son's shoulders, this time with such a grasp that, although the father did all he could to release him, the demon finally strangled the son to death. The old man then put his son on a sled and brought him down to 12 Mile Camp, where the other prospectors helped bury him. During the recital of this tale, the old man's eyes would glaze, and he would go through all the actions to illustrate how he fought off the imaginary demon. When I heard this story, there were some 10 or 12 other men in the cabin, and at the time it would not have been safe to dispute the theory of the existence of this demon on the Valdez Glacier, as every man in there firmly believed it to be a reality. Although Captain W.R. Abercrombie suspected that the glacial demon described by the Swedish stampeder was nothing more than a delusion brought on by scurvy, a fascinating article written by a prospector named Frank Howard, which appeared in the March 1909 issue of the Alaskan Yukon magazine, suggests that there may have been some truth to his tale. In the article, Howard described an incident which took place during a prospecting trip that he made in the early 1900s. While camping alone off the shores of Yakutat Bay, located on the Alaskan coast roughly halfway between Port Valdez and Juneau, Howard decided to explore the nearby Malaspina Glacier, which is the largest Piedmont glacier in the world. Howard ascended the glacier through a crack in the ice and began to make his way over to a distant ridge. On the way, he lost his footing and slid into an open crevasse. Although he did not sustain any major injuries from the fall, which found him wedged between the fissure's narrow walls, Howard was unable to climb out of the slippery chasm and decided to follow it deeper into the ice, hoping that it would lead out into a bay. As I kept going ahead, Howard wrote, I noticed a gradual increase of light, and in a few more steps I stood in a broad wall of blue light that came down from above. And looking up, I saw there was no clear opening to the surface, but objects were now revealed some distance around. Then an object rose slowly out of the glimmer and took form, a spectral thing with giant form and lifelike movements. The object rose erect, a Goliath in the shape of a man. This glacial being had a small head, narrow shoulders, and abnormally wide hips. It growled a challenge, and suddenly Howard was engulfed in a rank, indescribable odor. Petrified, the prospector desperately searched for an escape route, the hairs of his neck standing on end. Before he could make a move, however, the creature slinked away, eyeing him with a slantwise glance as it vanished into the gloom. His heart hammering in his chest, Howard continued deeper into the crevasse and found an exit about 50 feet away, which opened into a timbered beach. Since my miraculous encounter and escape, he wrote, I often attempt to solve the mystery that still enshrouds the apparition of the glacier. Terror might have magnified my imagination, but the apparition was not the imagination of an overbalanced mind. I am thoroughly convinced I saw something. It was not like any animal that I've ever seen before. Thanks for listening.
I just want to say I'm very thankful for Ruthie for the narration, and Glenn for some of the artwork, and of course Hammerson for providing the stories that he worked really hard to research and put into his books. So I just want to touch a little bit on this hominid that was found there. Now, of course, it could have just been hallucinations, right? They were suffering from scurvy. They'd been out on this glacier for a long period of time. It could have been all kinds of factors that could have brought up like a hallucination. So there's no questioning that the state that these people were in was in a pretty rough shape. But let's assume for a moment it did occur exactly the way they said, and because it wasn't just this individual, it was like the whole party that was doing this, and they describe it almost like as a diminutive, like human-like creature. And it reminded me almost maybe like something like Neanderthal, that we know that they lived in cold climates, so that they were really strong and powerful, and a lot of the times, like in some areas, they were shorter than the average person or much taller, depending on what area and what time frame you're looking at. But I thought that was interesting, that if they were hallucinating, one, it's like a mass hallucination on a whole scale, and two, it's, you think if they were hallucinating, it would have come up with something more elaborate than something that's a lot more acceptable. You know, it's easier to accept something like a person, you know, because it sounds just like a person. It could have been a person if it did occur that lives up there. And I don't, obviously we can speculate all day, but it does make you wonder if maybe that was something like Neanderthal or some other unknown hominid species that's yet to be understood or discovered, living up in the fringes of society. And the last one on the Valdez Glacier is the one that I think has all like the hallmarks and characteristics of Sasquatch, right? You know, it has the smell, it has the mass, the size, and it's in, you know, somewhere dark, somewhere hidden. But what I thought was really exciting about this, that I didn't consider before, just because it never came up, was that there might be whole ecosystems in these glacier caves and crevices that I never even considered, right? So that was exciting to me, because there's an area there that not only allows for passageways, but also shelter, that who knows what could be using and exploiting it. And so it kind of opened up my eyes to like a whole new way to see a place that normally seems pretty desolate, that no one would want to be in, or anything. And it kind of opened it up to reveal that, hey, there might be a lot more in the little nooks and crannies of these glaciers, and who knows what other types of environments have some type of strange similarity of that. So again, thank you. If you guys like this kind of crossover channel stuff, let me know, and we'll see about doing more. Go check out Hammerson's channel, and it's honestly one of my favorite channels to go and look at and see what's new on there. Of course, if you like this one, let me know. Let me know your opinions, your views, if you have any related type of stories or encounters. And like, subscribe, share. Look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.